Did Frank Zappa create the first Djent riff?
Mariah.
First up, who's Frank Zappa? He's that guy. He was one of my absolute musical heroes. He was endlessly prolific, releasing about 70 albums during his working life. He was an amazingly unconventional and uncompromising guitarist. His lengthy solos were endlessly creative. I didn't get it at first. I thought he kind of lacked finesse, like he was a little bit messy or something. I mean, I loved his compositional ideas and his arrangements. The hoops he made his extraordinary musicians leap through. And his outspoken stance on political and social issues. But over time I began to realise that his solos were compositions. And perhaps what I perceived as sloppiness was Frank stretching himself beyond anything else that he was hearing. You know, his phrases were definitely not constrained by a 16th note grid. He was a ridiculous composer. Quite aside from his unorthodox orchestral works, his arrangements for his rock bands were almost impossible for most accomplished mainstream musicians to execute. Oh, and what's Djent? Well, as Misha Mansour from Periphery explains, Djent was his little joke for the sound of Meshuggah's palm-muted power chord chugging. However, the onomatopoeic word has become synonymous with the precise and mathematical riffing of bands like Periphery, Animals as Leaders, and many more. Anyway, Frank Zappa wrote many difficult guitar parts, and one of my absolute faves has always been the one-note ostinato section from a song called Andy, off his 1975 release, One Size Fits All. This riff was originally played by Tom Fowler on bass, joined by the amazing George Duke on keys after a couple of cycles. Chester Thompson also followed the intricate pattern on drums while Frank soloed over the top. Now, I find this riff really hard to play cleanly and tightly, especially those groups of 30-second notes, and particularly the group preceded by an offbeat 16th note in the third measure. By the way, I asked the amazing Scott Thunes for his advice on executing those 30-second notes. Scott played with Frank throughout most of the 80s, becoming his erstwhile MD. He said, start slow, work your speed up, work your ass off, and you too can get maybe 85% of them after 20 years of playing. Thanks, Scott. So, how would it sound as a Djent riff? That works. It's even the right note. It's a low A. As a bonus, there's a simpler single note passage that precedes that one. That also works really well as a metal riff. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. Please give me a like if you liked, and if you subscribe, please ring the bell so you don't miss out on next week's installment. Thanks, guys.